Three, two, one. If you are tuning in to the Optician Show, you know I only interview exceptional people, and whether you know Harinder or not, you're going to get to know him very, very well. I'm Garry Kousoulou. I'm part of this thing we're trying to create to inspire others, and I let Harinder introduce himself. So, where are you? What do you do? How's it going? And thank you for coming on the show today.
Gary, firstly, thank you for acknowledging that you only interview exceptional people. So I assume I fall into that category. So I acknowledge you for that. Where am I? I live in Mallorca in Spain. So that's where I am right now. What do I do? Uh, you call this the Optician Show. What was the word you used just earlier?
Uh, Inspiring others. That's what we do. We us opticians are quite geeky, and there's the odd one that really specializes in different things. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because so this targeted towards opticians mainly.
Optometrists, ophthalmologists watch it, contact lens fitters, non-qualified people watch it. It's the whole spectrum. But West, there's other podcasts out there, and they're just quite clinical. We go into the depth of a human being, happiness, business. We might talk about business, and we're going to explore how on earth, because there'll be other optometrists out there thinking, how is this guy? How's he making a living? How is he not in the testing room? And then we're going to inspire them too if you're watching.
No, you've answered my question. So by profession, I'm an optometrist. I've been an optometrist for 31 years. I was a dispensing optician prior to that for about 3 or 4 years. Obviously, look really young.
Can
You
I
probably,
say the best Optom started out as a DO first? Just saying. And I've got facts that can
yeah.
back that up. I've been to the Optician Awards for the last 25 years. I always make sure I'm at the final. I go and I meet the Optometrist of the Year. 90% of the time, they started out as a DO first.
That probably answers my question because we were on the call yesterday with myself and Gary, and I was trying to work out how did we meet each other. And I'm pretty sure I met you at the Optician Awards many years ago. So uh, I wear different hats. So I'm going to explain the optometry hat. Obviously, I work as an optometrist. I'm a locum optometrist. I currently am flying back to the UK 1 or 2 weeks a month. I have taken many big gaps in optometry. Sometimes I've only done 1 day a month. Sometimes I've done 2 days a month. Sometimes I've not worked for a few months. So one of the things I love about optometry is allowed me the freedom to be able to do stuff like that. Why I met you at the Optician Awards was 23 years ago, I created a charity called Vision Care for Homeless People, which some of you listeners may have heard of, some of you may not have heard of. So we've got uh, fully equipped sight test rooms inside homeless centres throughout the UK. We're pretty much throughout the UK now. Um, that's my optometry hat. In terms of the other hats that I wear, my true passion, and this is not to take anything away from optometry, but my true passion and calling, which I realized 30 years ago, is personal development. And one thing Gary said to me yesterday, it was a very quick call, mind you. He said, I said to him, "What were you doing on Sunday?" He said, "I was on a course called Communication and Access to Power." And he might touch upon that later. And he said, "I'm a self-development junkie." And I've been a self-development junkie for over 32 years. And I love calling myself that because I absolutely love it. Everything I have in my life right now, literally everything is a result of the personal development training that I've gone through, that I'm continuing to go through every day, in shifting my thoughts, to shift my reality, to shift my world.
Now, let me
And
pause you there.
yeah,
There will be many skeptics that are watching this thinking it's
yeah,
mumbo jumbo, it's a cult, this is nonsense. We learn enough at optometry school. City in Islington taught me enough. I don't need extra. And I have this conversation near enough every day. If you're watching this, you're thinking, look, it's self development. I've learned enough already. I'm not here by fluke. Harinder is not there by fluke. We've done that by hard work. And hard work means looking at yourself and where you can improve. Like, look, it's really, this weekend was such hard work having to break myself down and build myself up again. So if you really want to take it to the next level, Einstein, and it's such a boring saying, but it really is true. He said, if you want to make change, like you're crazy if you think that you can do it in the same way. I speak to many, many people throughout my life, and 2006 looks like 2026 looks like 2025. There's been no development financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically. They're in the same bloody place. So if you're watching this thinking you're quite skeptical, they're talking about self-development. Would you define that quickly for us? And then
Yeah,
if
of course.
you're, because there will be skeptics watching saying,
You
because
know, I've
have
been in
you
this world for so long, and I'm really glad you asked that because I just take it for granted that the world is familiar with what self-development is. And I think the analogy I can give is a coach. Every top athlete
yeah,
or sports player, without a doubt, has a coach. Whether it's a football coach, whether it's a tennis coach, whether it's a 100-meter coach. So why do they have a coach? And the reason they have a coach is a coach will see things in that player that the player will never see. See, Gary, you will see things in me that I will never see. And if I'm open to contribution and I'm open to change, and you say something to me, and it's a blind spot that I'd never seen, and I take action in that area, it changes the trajectory of my life. And now it might be a small change. It's like a 2 millimeter shift. And if you imagine hitting a golf club on a driving range and you change the angle of the golf club by 2 millimeters, where does that trajectory go? So to answer your question, people like Gary, people like myself, because I know his background, what he's in, we're people who always want to be better today than we were yesterday. You know, I say to people, I'm like a fortune teller. I say to them, I can predict what's going to happen in your life in the next 6 months. They said, really? I said, I just got to look at the last 6 months.
there's a
Unless you
saying
change,
Brian Tracy uses. He says, "Show me what you do in your spare time, and I'll show you where you'll be in 10 years." And I say that to young people. I say, "What do you do in your spare time?" They're like, "I play PlayStation." That's where you're going to be in 10 years. And the youth don't appreciate that wisdom. Like when someone is giving me a wisdom, I get to choose whether I accept it or not. But there is a lot of wisdom.
there is a lot of wisdom, and I'm going to speak. And Gary, correct me if I'm wrong. Myself and Gary, because I know what journey he's been on, have been through, like everybody, the journey of hard knocks. Yeah, I believe you cannot develop or grow unless you. It's like a diamond. How is a diamond formed? The diamond is formed under pressure, graphite, a lot of pressure, and we've been through a lot of pressure, but we can't always change circumstances. But we can change our relationship to those circumstances. So, what is self development? Self development is, as the word says, developing yourself. As he's used the analogy from Einstein, another analogy, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So I'm always fine tuning my thoughts. I'm always fine tuning my actions. I'm always fine tuning my habits to change the outcome. Because if I keep on doing the same thing, yeah, then my result's going to be the same. So to answer your question, if you're someone that has got a dream, if you're someone that's got a desire and you want to achieve that, and you might say, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too rich, I'm too poor, and you've given up on that dream, or you're trying, I guarantee, I put money on it. Get yourself a life coach or a performance coach. And I happen to be one. So I'm not saying you have to use me, but get yourself a life
But
coach or a
you would
performance
relate
coach.
very nicely with optometrists.
It's
You would
funny you
know
say
that. You
that.
would know them.
Yes, I've actually started doing corporate coaching inside optician practices
Good.
where I'm actually coaching the staff in increasing their performance at work because I have that skill set. So without rambling on, I don't know, have I answered your question? What is self-development?
Without a doubt. And I think that if you're watching this and maybe what's in your mind is thinking, are they both happy? Yes, they're talking there. I'm 53 next birthday. Am I happy? I feel that I've written the book on it. I don't know if you're familiar with this book. I wrote a book about being happy in optics. So I've literally written the book on being happy. Here I am, and it's up to me what I choose to do today. Here you are in a very sunny place, living a very nice lifestyle. So if you're out there and you're thinking, yeah, but are they happy? I'm incredibly happy. I'm happy to connect with others. I'm happy to be on this podcast. So be in no doubt, the people that develop themselves are a lot happier than those that go through life letting life control them.
100%. And, can I just add on to just piggyback on what you just said? Most people in life, and I used to be one of those, are on autopilot. I would also say that most people are sleepwalking. They think the thoughts in their head are them. And you might say, what thoughts? That one. The one I said, what thought? That automatic internal dialogue is running always. It's almost like background noise, like radio noise. And we think those thoughts are us. They're not. They're just past programming of habits and beliefs you've picked up in your childhood as you've grown old. So what myself and Garry have the ability to do is consciously go from autopilot to consciously being aware of what thoughts are going through our head, and moment by moment choosing some of those thoughts that we like or changing the thoughts that we don't like. Now, it's not easy, it's a practice. Yeah, and I used to think, oh my God, I've got to be alert all the time. But it's not like it's like a seesaw. If you can shift your thought patterns by 51%, then the seesaw tips. So stuff that I used to, and you talk about happiness, am I happy all the time? No, I'm not. But I'm more happy now than I used to be. There were issues that used to bother me for years. And this is without exaggeration. Those years went to a couple of years, the same issues. Then as I worked more on myself, then they went down to 1 year. And as I worked more on those myself, issues then went to months. Now they've gone to weeks. Now they've gone to days. Now I've got the ability to let go of stuff, sometimes within seconds or minutes, because I'm aware of being able to step back from Harinder, literally step out of myself consciously and think, be an observer to what is Harinder thinking. Because what Harinder's thinking is sometimes autopilot. And this is the tools that you would learn through whether you do courses with Landmark Education, which both myself and Garry happen to be involved with.
Watch a Tony Robbins video. When I get to 1,000 podcasts, this podcast might, and we're watching this live, I'm not editing this could be in the top 10 best ever. Because when I get to 1,000, I will put the top 10% best ever podcast, because we're going to save you a lot of time by reading some of these. It takes a lifetime to read these things. So without a doubt, I'd like to go through our pain points, because I think people learn from our pain points. We're not just here preaching, saying, oh, this is what you do. These are some of the things that have gone wrong in our lives and how we fix that. And I think that would add a lot of value. Now, this is a fact. Out of all the self-development books sold in the world, they're sold to the same 5% of people. This is a fact. 95% do not read this stuff, do not touch this stuff, are very skeptical. It's always the same 5% that buy self-development or go on these courses. So just so we've got some guardrails here, and please feel free to take us in any direction. I wrote this book because I've been happy 95% of the time in optics. I love people. I love our profession. I love helping people see. The odd detached retina and the odd saving of life has happened to me in optics, and I love that. But for a small period of time, I was very unhappy. So I put the book Your Boss Doesn't Want You to Read. That was the first version. And I wanted to save people from being unhappy. So if you go to the back of the book, there is a happiness barometer. Okay, and maybe this might help us to look at some of the daily challenges of working in optics, and we can just use as a guardrail. So the first question is being happy. I've put that score yourself very low if you're commuting far to work. So I remember my first job was in Wealdstone. It would take me an hour and a half to get there. Now, when you're young, you don't mind traveling an hour and a half on the train, in the car, in the comfort of your car. The older you get, I would suggest that your commute should be less. The happiest I've ever been is when I walk to work. I bought a practice in 2004. I walked to work. It was amazing. Am I putting too much emphasis on the pain of commuting, in your opinion? Can you tell us about how you've commuted to work? Is this a big deal to you? So I put, if you're traveling more than an hour to work, this leads to unhappiness. Would you agree, disagree? And can you give us some examples yourself?
So, do you want me to give you examples related to optometry or just generally in life?
People are going to find value in both.
So, let me share some pain points because, I believe that, everyone wants life to be on cruise control, like cruising, constant. Yeah. And
It's
so you've got to say
comfortable. It's
something.
really comfortable there. Where
Yeah.
you're suggesting is so comfortable.
Yeah. And I always use the analogy, the only time life in reality is on cruise. If you look at a cardiac machine in a hospital, someone on their deathbed, is when you're flatline.
Yeah.
Life and life is up and down. But who are you or who am I in relation to the up and down when it's going on? And another analogy is if life was all sunshine, it'd be a desert. So you need some rainfall. But who are you going to be in relation to that rainfall? So, in terms of pain points, the biggest pain point that comes to me, and this is one of the biggest breakthroughs I got out of doing personal development work, is my mum died when I was 10 years old. She died on my 10th birthday. Okay. And at the time, as a 10-year-old child, I wasn't aware what was going on. Yeah. She died. Um, And my dad just sent me and I got a twin brother. My dad just sent me and my twin brother to school because he didn't know how to cope. And my teachers were shocked from what I remember. A lot of my past is a blur. It's just the way my mind's just blocked off everything because of the pain. And they were probably thinking, what the hell are these guys doing at school? And one of the biggest breakthroughs I got out of personal development is I'm not exaggerating, guys. I hadn't cried for 17 years, not even wept a tear. I didn't know how to cry. I'd blocked everything. I didn't know this was going on until the age of 27 when I got into personal development 30 years ago. Yeah. And I saw how I'd been running my life as a 10-year-old and I'd been going out with girls. And I started very late because I had insecurity issues, which is another conversation. But I was going out with girls, and anytime a girl used to get close to me, I should just do a sharp exit. And I was two-timing girls, I was three times. That's what guys do. But at the age of 27, I had such a big issue with commitment. I really thought commitment was like a ball and chain round my leg that it's gonna be game over. And I did this course called the Landmark Forum, and I saw that at the age of 10, I'd made a decision that I can't trust people. Now I don't even know the listeners here, and I'm an open heart now. I'm an open book, but my life was like this. I had built like so many shields in front of me, almost like an Iron Man suit, times that by 10. That's what my life was. So I hadn't wept a tear. And I did this course, and for the first time in my life, I was able to open my heart because I saw that I made a decision at the age of 10. And that decision was I can't let anyone get close to me because if they do, they're going to leave me. So forget women. I wouldn't let human beings get close to me. I would never have intimate, open conversations like this with anybody. And I went home that day after the course and I sat my dad down and I said to my dad, Dad, I want to apologize to you. For 17 years, I've been making you wrong. You put all of mum's photographs away from the day she died. I didn't know she even died until 2 years later. You never talked about her. You got remarried and I made my new mum's life hell. And I want to apologize to you because I've been making you wrong all that time and I forgive you. And I realized what you did was for the best for the kids. And my relationship with my dad and every human being changed. Yeah. So in terms of pain points, there's been many, many more examples I can use, which are painful experiences that shaped who I am today. And I can go into loads of them. And so I want the audience to think, what the hell is an optometrist talking about? You know what? It doesn't matter whether I'm an optometrist. Sometimes I say to people, you invite people to a party, your party at home. Yeah. You're a different person at work. You're a different person with your wife. You're a different person with your friends. You're a different person with your colleagues. You invite all these people around. You don't know who to be at home. Because we're not ourselves, our authentic
Now,
self.
I cannot wait to reach this subject. Let me firstly acknowledge you for being so honest about you being a child, because usually with these podcasts, we gently ease into it. You've gone full in, like we're at 20 minutes and you've gone really so honest. So I have to acknowledge you for that. That's, I'm not going to assume that the listeners are mind readers. I said about commute. How does that manifest to not being happy at work? Well, if you're commuting 3 hours, 4 hours a day, you get really tired and it's hard to put 100% effort into your work. Now, if you don't trust people because of past trauma in the past, we're a people related industry. By not trusting people, how do you feel that manifested to you becoming a better optometrist? By the ability to trust and forgive and communicate.
I mean, you know what? This is no word of a lie. There'll be listeners who know me on this call because I've been around the block a long time, yeah. And I can say without a shadow of a doubt, every time I do an eye test, quite often, because I work in different places, the pre-screener or the optical assistant comes up to me and says, Harry, my nickname's Harry, I'm Harinder. This patient's
What do you prefer?
call me whatever you want, I don't mind. Yeah. They say this patient's really tough, they're a bit rude. And you know what? I love that because I say to them, I'm going to turn this patient around. And I promise you, 100% of the time, they walk out smiling. Now, it's not what I say, it's not what I do. It's not saying which is better, one or two. I don't suddenly say which is better, seven or eight. It's who I'm being. In life, what you are, who you are, is who you're being. And who you're being is an energy that you carry. Now, because I have removed through personal development so many layers, and I continue to do so, my heart is open, but is it fully open? No, because we protect ourselves. The more times we protect ourselves, we think we're protecting ourselves, we're actually blocking other human beings penetrating their love towards us.
And
So when I'm with a patient, they feel my energy. I don't have to even say anything, and they open up with me. I have patients that start sharing stuff with me, even strangers, personal stuff, and people say to me, "Why they?" I think it's because I'm just
Harry,
open."
this week I got on the train. A complete stranger said to me that they want to commit suicide.
Wow.
We discussed not jumping in front of a train because it was selfish to the train driver. And when I say this to people, they're like, what? And I'm told that it was God's will, it was divine intervention that they speak to me. People open up to me. Like I often would think about practice life. There, I'd go in and there was a queue of people waiting to see me. I said, "There's other people that work here. Why are you waiting for me?" The place that I did my pre-reg 30 years ago, my pre-reg supervisor, hi, Mr. Regani, he says that there's one patient still comes in and asks for me.
Wow.
This human connection. It breaks my heart to hear young optometrists in their pre-reg years thinking of leaving the profession because they don't know about that connection that you have. That's our gift. Our gift isn't getting someone down to 6'4". It's good. It's lovely to look at ophthalmology and say wow, or find a frame that they've not been found. But like there'll be people that they're wearing the most terrible frame, and then they come to you and you fit them and you style them and they wow, or they can't get on with varifocals and you do it. That you might think is the gift, but the gift is when you connect and they trust you. That's your gift. And I think when people leave our profession, they stop liking people. They stop liking patients. When you go into a patient I remember when I was young, I was so scared of engineers and architects. They're going to ask me difficult questions about lenses, and they wanted formulas, and they wanted to know more than I know. I was so scared of them. Bring them on now. Bring on a patient that is in a bad mood. And
100%.
and you think, well, Garry, you got this innately. You got this because you're gifted with some blessed. You're an extrovert. This wouldn't work for me. I really want you to know when you're developing yourself, this will happen. I've been developing myself for a long, long time. I heard about a guy called Napoleon Hill. He had a list of traits that high achievers have, and I didn't have any of these traits. The number one trait was to get yourself back into a positive mood from a negative one. So patients come in and they smell. And how long do you let that last? I've spoken with colleagues that one smelly patient ruins their whole day. One non-toll ruins their day. How long do you allow that to happen to you before you've gone back into that positive attitude? Learn, move. Harry, I'd love your opinion on this, on Napoleon Hill's work on getting back into that positive mindset from negativity.
100%. Napoleon Hill is someone that I really admire, someone that was around at the beginning of the 19th century. And it's interesting because me and Gary didn't even discuss Napoleon Hill. And we,
Did his work.
Gary and I spoke yesterday. I'll come back to your question. We spoke yesterday after about 10, 12 years. And, so Napoleon Hill, he wrote a book called Think and Grow Rich, which I've read over 3 or 4 times. And you might think, am I literate? Why am I reading? When you do something over and over again, or when I do something, I see things, I read things I didn't see before. So Think and Grow Rich is a book that he published in the middle part of the 19th century. And he interviewed the most successful, richest people on the planet at the time. He interviewed Rockefeller, he interviewed Henry Ford, and he saw that there was a common theme or pattern that had people become rich. And I'm not going to be embarrassed to share this because coming back to the original question, why get a coach? I wouldn't be where I'm in my life today without a coach. Vision care for homeless people would not exist if I didn't have a coach at the time, because when I create something really big, my thought patterns want to shrink. I want to just hide. I've had panic attacks waking up in the morning. I've created schools in slums in India that teach life coaching and personal development and yoga. I've created organizations worldwide. But when I was doing any of these projects, the little Harinder that's programmed to be Harinder was very scared and didn't want to do any of this. But my coach helped me identify the little Harinder because the goal was so big. And, even doing these podcasts, even doing public speaking, I've trained hundreds and thousands of people from stage. And I used to have panic attacks. I remember getting on stage.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's one of the traits of a high achiever. So you'll see the World Cup is in a month's time. Someone's just lifted the World Cup, Harry Kane, whoever it might be, and they're still thinking about that little free kick they could have kicked better. They've just lifted the World Cup. Look, you will see overachievers being really tough on themselves. What Harinder's saying here is a trait, and I recognize it. You are tough on yourself. You are tough. And there are people that are really hard on themselves, don't give themselves a break, but they achieve something. Achieving greatness isn't coming by staying in your comfort zone. Achieving greatness, which you're great. You've affected strangers' lives. You've done amazing things in your life. And that hasn't happened by luck. Bringing it back to work. If you want a pay rise, if you want to be amazing, if you want to be on this podcast one day, you want to write a book, you need to be slightly better, not a lot better, but slightly better than the norm. So you only do that really by working on yourself. And I'm hoping that we're making that point and we're both being really honest, and we're both like, there will still be people doubting, well, where should we start? Maybe watch a Tony Robbins video, go to Landmark. We're not under any commission here. Harry and I, go and see this man. You're doing a workshop soon, in a couple of weeks, right? This is a good transition into it, because people will be watching and saying, how do I start this journey of being better and working on myself?
Can I share a bit about Tony Robbins? And in terms of the last statement you've made, I'm sure Gary would share my contact details at the end of this podcast. How you start with this is, I've been a life and performance coach for 30 years. And I've trained hundreds and thousands of people in small workshops, on stage, one-to-one. So if you're someone who wants to just dabble in and have an introductory session, I'm available, guys. And, I'm open to contributing to you if you feel you're ready for that. And if you're not a bad person, you're not
Just
a
not
wrong
coachable.
person.
You're just
Yeah,
not. Your mind is closed, and Gary could be the best coach in the world. If you are not coachable, can I relate this to a contact lens insertion removal, please? Just for
go
a
for it.
second. So I keep bringing it back to optics. I really care about this subject, and I really want everyone watching to know that the coaching that we do makes us better at our job. So contact lens insertion removal. Someone comes in and says, I can't put it in. I start to pack things away. And they said, what are you doing? I said, well, if you think that you can't do it, you're probably right. So there's no point us continuing. This works really well on teenagers. They're saying, no, 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 sorry. I say, well, you need to start saying in your mind, you're going to be able to put this contact lens on because we're never going to get anywhere. And I can tell you, as a fact, in the last 30 years, I have failed on 0 contact lens insertion removals because it's a mind game. It's not about the technique of lowering your bottom lid, putting it on your eye and putting it in the right place. That's not what you're doing. You're doing overcoming something that's really challenging, especially for men, especially for Chinese people that have small eyes, especially for people that are afraid. You need to get over that psychologically. Yet we give this job to the teenager, the least life experienced person in the practice, and then wonder why. Like if I was Cooper Vision right now, if I was J&J, I would change the whole. The failure rate for contact lenses is enormous because that insertion removal isn't done. Yet we don't teach rapport building, neuro-linguistic programming, mirroring. Like we don't teach any of this stuff. All we do is we teach the technique, make sure it looks like a bowl, not a soup bowl. Madness.
Wow, no, that's so true. I mean, everything, what myself and Gary are talking about, and we're going to carry on talking about because we're so passionate, you can probably tell that, is everything that I'm talking to you, the audience here, everything I want to invite you to take something on. And I want to give you a jacket to try on. Just try the jacket on for the next minute. If you like it, keep the jacket. If not, just put it aside. And I want you to invite you that everything we're talking about, you're already doing. Take on that everything you have in your life right now is because at some point you thought it. Yeah. Even the things that you might think, I don't like those, but just take on that at some point you thought those because your thought patterns are running autopilot. And usually the thought patterns and the talk is limiting talk, is negative talk. I'm not good enough. I'm not going to get this contact lens in. I'm an optometrist. I'm not going to be able to diagnose this condition. I might miss this. I might miss that. So those thought patterns are running 24/7 daily. I'm not going to be able to recommend Zeiss Clearview lenses because the patient's going to think I'm pressurizing them or I'm selling something to them. Those thought patterns are running 24/7. And then you think, why does the other person not want to go for what I recommend? I
People
recommend
say I'm coming back with
encyclopedias.
my wife. That is a direct reflection on your professionalism. And that hurts people to hear that when someone says, I'm coming back with my wife, you need to take that personally because they haven't bought into you. And it's challenging. But how can you do that unless you built some rapport with that patient and predict what's going to happen? Like, I honestly, that's a very controversial subject in optics. Closing, sales techniques, different personalities need different coaching.
100%. So I was mentioning about Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is the top personal development trainer, and this is facts in the world. He's coached people from Bill Clinton to Mother Teresa to Princess Diana to Andre Agassi to Serena Williams. He's coached presidents, prime ministers, and people pay millions of dollars to coach them
Per hour.
per hour. Yeah.
Hour.
Not even per day, because he produces results. So I started his journey about 10 years ago. No, I've been on his programs for about 10, 12 years. On the first day of his program, you actually do a firewalk. So I've done about 12, 13 firewalks. You might think, what the hell is an optometrist doing a firewall? And you're walking barefoot on hot coals. And he does that as a metaphor to have you see that if you can achieve that, you can achieve anything. And he does that on the first day of the course. It's a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday and a Monday. And, so coming back to personal development, it's all about if you do want to go up the career ladder at work, if you're a dispensing optician and you want to go into managerial level, if you're an optical assistant and you want to do the DO course or you want to become a dispensing optician, or you just want to go up the ladder, if you're an optometrist and you want to go further afield and you haven't done so because there's a thought in your head that's saying, am I good enough? Have I got the money?
Yeah, but here's the thing, it's deep down. You don't actually consciously know you're thinking that. It's
very good.
And you've got to dig into it. And the way that the alarm bell should be is that you continually put down on on January the 1st, you're like, I'm gonna apply for a manager's position. And then the whole year's gone by, you've not done it. There's a reason for that. Your subconscious is telling you. For me, I have a calendar, and in that calendar it says November, December, January, February, and I put down a goal. And if I haven't reached that goal, I will reach out to someone like Harry and I'll say that, Harry, I've not reached my goal. Where is it? You need someone else to observe where that is.
Yeah, no, thanks for saying that because, 90, I'm making this number up, 90 to 95% of the time, most people, we're not even aware of those thoughts. We're not even aware that there's negative thoughts. Some of you might say, I don't have negative thoughts. And, so the advantage of getting a coach or using someone like me or anybody else is the coach will work with you. I can work with you and have you see things that you didn't even know that were there. I'd have you see your blind spots. Because if most people are aware of their blind spots, they can do something about that action. But if you're not even aware of the blind spots, it's that analogy that you use in Landmark with stuff that you don't even know that you don't even know.
If I may, you don't even know. If I may, I'm going to go through some of the more challenging things of my career, and they all come down to people, right? So one of the most difficult things of working in optics is it's a tight team. So when you have a tight team, there can be dysfunction, there can be narcissism, there can be ignorance. So when I'm really young now, and it's a husband and wife team. The wife doesn't like my style very much, and she tries to get me fired. This is a human thing. Then I think a little bit further on, I'm working with another lady. She's very obvious to me. She has maybe perimenopause, a short string. I get her annoyed all the time. I go forward a little bit further down the line. My pre-reg supervisor leaves and I'm really distressed. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't have any mentors. I've seen in practice where a fellow colleague has made a pass at me, and that if I'd made the wrong decision, it would have been an affair at work and probably would have got me sacked. Always choosing the correct way, but then sometimes you don't know what the correct way is. When I go further into my mind of some of the hardest things I've ever had to do is go into partnership with people. Partnership is the hardest thing to do. And when it goes wrong, it's actually all my fault. I look at my whole career and the things that have gone wrong are my fault. And that takes something, that really takes something to say that this was my fault. I could have played moves more. If you play chess out there and you play online, you can rewind the move. Life is not a dress rehearsal. Sometimes you only get one chance. So I go through all of that and I think, well, the hardest thing, and I don't know, Harry, if you can go through your life very quickly and think some of the hardest things in practice that you've had to deal with, they all come down to people, no doubt. And the dysfunction of a practice, I remember being very young and so much racism from patients, from fellow colleagues. Not so much anymore. Where's your name from? Where are you from? You're dark skinned. I come back from holiday. Where are you from? And I knew that was underlying racism at the end of the day. How do you handle this? So I don't want to go on because I'm enjoying this so much. I hope that comes across. Sir, will you tell us some of your
You know
challenges
what?
through your career?
Something that came to mind, and just to add on, piggyback on what you just said, you know, what Gary said is really, really profound. He said that if I look at all the challenges I've had in my life through my career and everything, he said, I look at what I can be responsible for. I was responsible for those mistakes. Now that takes a lot of courage because we live in a world that it's easy to blame someone else. Okay. And that's one of the biggest things that I've got out of optometry is when I'm blaming someone, if I'm pointing the finger at someone, yeah, there's three fingers pointing back. And I always look at what can I be responsible for. So can I think of specific examples? I remember one example which is quite profound. I was born into the Sikh faith, and being a Sikh, I didn't cut my hair for many, many years because my dad was very religious. He was a devout figure in the local temple, and I cut my hair. So I used to wear a turban, and I cut my hair in the early 30s. And I remember working as an optometrist when I first qualified in 1996, and I used to wear a turban. And I worked in Romford in Essex. And I mean, the area's changed now, but in those days, 30 years ago, it was a very predominant Caucasian white area. And I used to walk down the street and I used to experience racism. I used to experience racism in the sight test room. I used to experience racism on the shop floor. But something profound happened. Now, some of you are going to think this guy is Dulali. I'm going to share something that really is really profound. When I got into personal development, yeah, and I saw that, I took on that I'm responsible for everything that happens in my life, which is a big deal. First, I thought it was like a weight on my shoulders if I'm responsible for everything. But then I really got the power of that. If I'm responsible for everything, then I'm causing the experience of racism. I'm causing that. I'm attracting that into my life. And overnight, I gave up racism. I made that decision. Yeah. Because if someone's looking at me, there's a conversation going on in my head that they're looking at me because I'm different, because I'm wearing a turban. But in reality, they might just be looking at me. So I realized that over 80% of the bullshit, the BS, was in my own head.
And sexism, I'm not a woman, but I see sexism every day. Still exists. If you allow it to exist in your world, so somebody maybe dismisses you because you're a woman. If you rise above that as a clinician, it goes after 2 seconds. That first impression of you're a little bit different to me, but the minute I open my mouth, when that nose pad has dropped off, or they are seeking advice about their dry eye, or they need you more than you need them. And as a professional, if they're rude to you, if they're sexy, if they're violent, unacceptable. But humans are allowed that first impression. And then what you respond across the thing will make all the difference. So if you are challenged with any of these things, I so recommend you get in touch with Harry. Harry will give you a personal one-to-one. That this was never meant to be session on promoting your services, sir. You can pick any life coach, but one that's an optometrist, one that understands your pain is not a bad thing. And maybe we'll give a free white paper to because there's many things that we could recommend. I can't believe we've been on this call 50 minutes.
You know, can I share what you shared before the call started?
What's that?
Can I share what you said to me before the call started about how long the podcast is?
You're welcome.
So I said to get, because this whole thing was arranged in such a short space of time, because I called him yesterday morning about 9 a.m. UK time because it was 10 a.m. here. And just out of being courteous, he answered my call, but he had to sneak out of his practice where he was doing consultancy work. And he said, Harry, listen, I need to get back into work. And he said, I'd love to do an interview on you. So I didn't have a clue what was going to happen today. And I said to him before the call started, I said, how long is this podcast? He He goes, I've done podcasts that last 20 minutes. I've done some that last 50 minutes. And I said, okay, so my line is I need to make sure it lasts more than 20 minutes. But you know what, guys? I knew this today is going to be amazing because I ran a mind movie in my head before the podcast that it's going to be magical. I run a mind movie in my head every morning when I wake up. I visualize brushing my teeth. I visualize going to work. I say to myself, as an optometrist in the morning, what magic and miracles am I going to achieve at work today? Because what you think about, you bring about. We're guys, this is scientifically proven. We're a vibration. And the only way you can change your vibration, the vibration, we're a magnet. And the only way you can change your vibration is through your thought patterns. And when you change your thought patterns, it changes your vibration. So you attract like-minded people. You attract so things come into my life that I visualize. I'm a strong advocate of, this is a whole separate conversation, of manifesting, of the law of attraction. Yeah. So I actually go into work and I visualize interacting with patients before I even walk into work, of how amazing the day is going to go. And sometimes as an optometrist, because I've been an optometrist for 30 years, and I would say I'm a great optometrist. I don't like rushing the eye test. And sometimes I can start falling behind, and that's quite pressurizing as an optometrist if I know a patient's waiting for me. I visualize before the day starts that today's going to go really easy and calm. And it does.
Every time. Right. Every time. So where you're helping me lead this conversation is thinking about our patients buying online, right? We don't have an accurate PD. You don't know that it's going to fit you properly. You don't know any of that stuff, right? They're talking about in Munich. I was in Munich in January, an automated sight test where the ophthalmoscopy and refraction is done for you, right? It's coming. Whether we like it or not, people are going to buy more glasses online. People are going to get more eye exams online. So if you are coming into practice, it's an experience. It's experience that you're dealing with. And if the patient comes in and they can feel tense situation, everyone's having a bad day, no one's friendly, you might as well just buy it online. Very good. When we start our day, every day I started my day when I had my own practice with a meeting. If a patient came in, if a patient didn't come in, if a patient came, I used to involve the patient. It takes time. So if you're a manager right now and you're leading the meeting and you're a miserable soul and you're never upbeat and you're just talking about sales figures. Today we've got to make $3,000, guys. I really need that to happen because I'm under pressure. And it doesn't happen. There's a good reason for that. Instead of saying, how is everyone? The worst meetings when one person's talking. Let's all get involved. Let's visualize how we're going to feel at 5:30. And it bloody works. Leading a meeting as an owner or as a boss with a positive attitude, the rest of that filters out. I just come back from California. Hilton have won the best place to work in the world. Everyone from the cleaning lady to people making my sandwich to the restaurant owner had a positive. I had such a great experience. And that's where we want our practices to be. Patients to have the best experience, clinically high. And if you follow just even a little bit of the advice we've given you today, I think you won't far go wrong. So how about, is it possible for me to ask you, in your opinion, what would you say are the things that have made the top couple of things that have made you the man you are today? And you've already told us one, going to Landmark Forum, discovering all this self-development. What would you say are some of the things that, if you're watching this, good advice from you to give to people working in optics that are not that happy, that could do with a little bit more?
The first thing is create a vision for yourself, create a goal that you can live into. It could be something that you want to achieve in 6 months or a year. And Garry gives me the opportunity, I'll share a bit about that afterwards. So that you have a reason why you're going to work. It's the reasons that get you through the seasons. Have a why of why are you going to work, not just so that it pays your bills, because then you will be a bit bored and you will just...
It's the rat race. What you just described. Yeah. I go to work, I commute, I go to work, I finish work, I come home, I feed myself, feed my family, and there you go. You live for the weekend. Like if you're just living for the weekend, that is no life. There's 7 days a week. Each day should be your favorite. And I know that's really, sometimes I say to my children, and they look at me like, Dad, you're so weird. So today's Wednesday. I say, yes, it's Wednesday. They're like, Dad. Like I'm excited about every day.
No, it's great. So that's the first thing is create a goal for yourself. And it may not be a goal that's related to work. It doesn't matter. It's something that you can look forward to. And if you're stuck in how to achieve that goal, go onto YouTube, get a life coach like me. You know, there's so much inspirational stuff out there that'll help you break through.
Check out a guy called Brian May, not the Brian May from Queen, the guitarist. He's one of my favorite goal setting mentors, really. Brian May, check him out.
The second thing I would say is practices that I have is I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always listening to positive stuff. I'm always listening. I meditate daily. I meditate 20 minutes before I wake up every morning. I'm at night when I go to bed, I do a meditation where I'm, in my mind, I go through again what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for my son. I'm grateful for my wife, my daughter. I'm grateful for the fact that I'm healthy. I'm grateful I got a roof over my head. I'm grateful I got clothes on my body.
And these
I'm
could be
grateful.
some of the team meetings. Like I'd say
Yeah,
quite often in my team meeting, if I could feel somebody coming to work and they're on like a 6 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10, they're not really there. I could pick up on it. So we'd just go around and say, well, what are we all grateful for today? And a lot of people think, oh, this is so cheesy. This is so bad. I don't like this. And that's why you build the team around you. If there are people that are not on your level and you are the boss and you are the owner and you're the manager and there's such a disconnect, it's not going to, I'm sorry to say this, your team to be high performing all have to be on the same page. If they don't really like all this mumbo jumbo, happy clappy stuff, meet them halfway. If they're not on the bus, they need to get off the bus because you're not going to get, and that
yeah,
is really difficult thing to say, and it's difficult for people. Very quickly, I just say, look, what's your idea of 100%, Jane? And then she'll tell me, and then I'll say, this is my idea of 100%. The phone needs to be picked up after 3. You need to smile at every single patient. You need to take everyone's email address, blah, 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 blah. And then the next part is you say, well, what will happen in 3 months if you don't do these things? Those conversations, holding people to account. Like I know the person in charge of Microsoft for Europe and Africa, she might look after teams of 2,000, 5,000. I said to her, how do you do that? She says every single person is accountable for their particular section, their thing. Make people accountable. It's a good thing. What's the next? And then we really want to find out about your workshop, your away,
please.
however
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
going to
of course,
categorize it.
yeah. And I'm going to just add to that. So
Please.
what Gary said there might sound really harsh, but it's so important to be authentic and real. There might be some employees you have working in your place that they're not on the same wavelength, and you got to be have tough love. And I want to just share something that is really important. I said I've started doing corporate coaching, and there's an optometrist that most of you probably know because he makes sure he's known. His name's Mehul Patel, and he owns a Boots Opticians franchise in Bexley Heath. And I love working for him because he has this mindset. He has this go-getting mindset. And he said to me a few weeks ago, because he was doing a team meeting and my patient didn't show up. So I just joined the team meeting. And I said to the staff, I said, listen, if you think you're selling to someone, yeah, you got to change the word selling to reframe it to you're helping them. I said, it's all in a switch. And he came to me, he goes, Harry, he goes, I want you to train my staff. I said, I'd love to do that. So I said to Mehul, I said, what's your goal? He said, I want to be the number one Boots franchise, opticians franchise in the country. That's my vision. And I want my staff to have that vision. And I was really straight with him. I said, look, Mehul, most of your staff don't give a shit about your vision. It's good for you and your wife because that's going to put money in your pocket. We've got to create a vision for your staff. He goes, what do you mean? We've got to create a vision of why do the staff come to work and have that vision be under your umbrella. So not only do they win, you win. And he goes, what are you talking about? I said, give me one-on-one coaching with each of your staff. He goes, let's test it out. He gave me 4 of his staff. The first staff member says to me, I'm not going to mention any names here. He says, my goal is in a year's time, I want to get married. And I listen, I don't have the answers. I don't have a script. I said, look, that's interesting. I said, let's see how work can allow you to achieve that. And he's a Muslim faith. He goes, look, Nadia can introduce me to someone who's Muslim. Mo can introduce me to someone Muslim. And I said, let's look even deeper than that. And he said, Harry, I really like the way you dress. You're good looking. You know, Mehel's good looking. He goes, I'm not good looking. Look at me. And I said, who decided you're not good looking? He said, what do you mean? He said, who decided you're not good looking? He said, I did. I said, who told you that? He goes, I did. I said, who told you that's the truth? He didn't know what I was talking about. And I said, where did that conversation come from? Now, without getting into too much detail, he'd made a decision because something happened to him in his childhood that he decided that he's not good looking, that he's not going to be successful with women. And I said to him, I said, do you know what women are attracted to most? They're attracted to the person that they want to be with. It's not just the looks. I said, what practices can we take on at work that will increase your confidence? Right? He said, I can be more confident with patients. I can go beyond my comfort zone. If I want to recommend a Zeiss lens, I can recommend Zeiss Drive Safe because it's helping me go outside my comfort zone.
I'll pay you a compliment. I'll pay you a compliment.
Now, go on.
What you did there was a higher level of thinking. If you're out there and you're thinking, well, I can't connect the dots to how I could do a one-to-one interview with a member of staff and connect the dots, and I'm not sure this is going to work. Well, the thing is that you need that higher level of thinking. There's always that higher level. And if you're on a baseline of you've never developed yourself, sometimes I meet many opticians that are managers of others, and I say, what are the books you read about management? And they look at me like I'm stupid. I don't read books on management. Well, there's a whole 1,000 years of experience that you could put there to speed up accelerate your learning. You truly, Harry, you are a leader of people, and you're a higher level of thinking. So if you're watching this and you're hearing it and you're like, oh, I can't relate to that story, it's because of your experience, and that's what you're hiring him for, like a higher level of thinking. And in optics, I don't know if you know this story, the best thing about optics is your staff stay. They stay for years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. The worst thing of optics is they stay and they get used to sitting in their same seat. They can't even put in a nose pad because they're the receptionist. This is not, we want to break that. And it will lead to happiness.
Thank you for sharing that. And, so he's now coming to work to achieve his vision, and that's going to help Mehel's vision. So now the staff walked out, all four of them, thinking, what the hell? One of them said, look, I loved it because it had nothing to do with work. They said, we've never experienced a one-on-one coaching like that. And now he's booked me for 2 full days in a few weeks' time to do all his stuff. So we're going to put mini actions in place that I'm going to manage in them achieving their vision inside his optician's practice, which will help him achieve his vision. Now, that's really outside the box thinking. I have the ability to do that because I've been in this field for 30 years. I've worked with hundreds and thousands of people, and that's what a coach will help you do. But one thing I want to just finish on, because I think and this is going to wrap up everything before we talk about the retreats, is let me ask the audience a question. In fact, let me ask you a question, Garry. What do you think makes successful people successful?
Many. It's like a cake. Think that a cake has flour and water and sugar and toppings, and even where you serve it and how you serve it and the light and the ambience, and like the cake deserves many things. So I think the essential ingredients is resilience. Most successful people get punched in the face every single day and get up and say, I'm going to do better. They set goals. They're around other positive, successful people. So if you're around a bunch of drug dealers, your life probably isn't going to increase. Like if you're around billionaires and you're around successful people, you'll increase your livelihood. So I don't have all the answers. I don't know. I'm
No, no,
sure you're gonna
you've
add
touched on,
some
you've touched on
ingredients into the cake, but that's what I would say.
you've touched upon some amazing things. I'm going to make it even simpler. What makes successful people successful is they just do the things that successful people do. I'm going to say it again. What makes successful people successful is they just do the things that successful people do. So if you want to become successful at having an amazing relationship with your partner, most people are going through a breakup or going through a tough time, contact their best friend for advice on the relationship. Their best friend might have been through 4 divorces. But that's the sort of stupidity of things that we do. So if you want to be successful and you want to be a great manager, pick up a book of an amazing manager. Pick up a YouTube video of an amazing
I can
manager.
recommend a great book called The Minute Manager. It was my first book that I ever read. It's so simple. It's a nice storytelling. This might not resonate with some of you, but if you take this away, success leaves clues.
100%.
Failure leaves clues. Investigate, be a private detective. Look at the people that are successful in your eye. Behind the scenes, they might not be successful. They might be absolutely miserable. But the ones that you're close with, the ones that you feel, I'd like to model my life on you, it leaves clues. They have
And
a
that's
daily
how,
routine, a morning routine.
yeah,
They
and that's
eat
how you
well.
save years. That's how you save years because you can go through the journey of hard knocks and open up an optician's practice and you can do it your way, or you can copy someone who's gone through 20 years of hard knocks and worked out a formula and just copy that formula. And you might think, why would they want to help you? They've written books. Gary's written a book. So you can just copy what successful people do. And that's what me and Gary do. So if I want to, when I created Vision Care for Homeless People, I went to a very successful charity and I said to the CEO of that charity, I want you to mentor me. Yeah, I want you to, and he did. I want you to mentor me because I want to shorten what took you 10 years to do into 10 months. Right. And that was for vision care. And I've done that in all areas of my life. And now, one last thing I did want to say, which Gary was asking, is what I love doing. As you can probably tell, I love inspiring people to be the best they can be. That makes me happy. That makes me fulfilled. And my wife, which coincidentally, similar to Gary's wife, my wife's a yoga teacher. I only found out last days, and she's been a yoga teacher for 20 years. So what we've done is I've taken my 30 years of performance coaching, and she's taken a 20 years of yoga coach experience. And we now do 1-day wellness retreats, right? We do them here in Mallorca. We brought that magic to London, and we've got 2 retreats coming up, one on Sunday, the 28th of June, and one on Monday, the 29th of June. And I'm hoping Gary's going to be there with his missus.
Is in London or with
This is in London. This is in Essex. Yeah, in Romford, in Essex. It's a 1-day retreat, which I'm going to just talk you through. You turn up, and this is for people who are new to this, who want to dip their toe in the water and just try it out. Because I promise you, you'll walk in one person in the morning and you'll walk in a different person. I actually guarantee it. And you can hold me to that. And what
something
happens?
that we're not paying for here, all right? You're not paying for this, but will be a benefit is the people you meet, you'll make real long-lasting relationships with. So it's like joining the gym and you want to leave with healthier, bigger muscles, but your heart is also going to help you live longer. I'm sure I haven't been to one and I plan to go if I'm free. You will build so many nice relationships with others as well. I'm
I
sure.
want to add again, I love what Gary's been saying. That's why I like piggybacking you. Tony Robbins said something that changed my life. Okay. And again, I'm going to say it twice. He said that give me the earnings. I'm going to say 2 things. He said, give me the earnings of your 5 closest friends, and I'll predict your earnings to the nearest £100. Give me the earnings of your 5 closest friends, and I'll predict your earnings to the nearest £100. Right? That's self-explanatory. You are who you hang around with. The second thing he said, which was really wow to me, he said that your life is a direct reflection of the expectations of your peer group. Your life is a direct reflection of the expectations of your peer group. If you're hanging around with people who are mediocre, who love living in their comfort zone, who love going, no offense to EastEnders, who love going home watching soaps, and they're not going to be the people that are going to hold you to account. They're not going to be the people that say, go for that business, take that risk. So your life is a direct reflection of the expectations of your peer group. Now, I made a promise to Garry yesterday, and I'm a man of my word, that we're going to be in each other's lives now, whether he likes it or not, because I know he's someone who will hold me to account to be a bigger person than
If you give me
I know
permission,
myself to be.
because
I give you
sometimes
permission.
you can give advice to friends, and then all of a sudden they're not your friend anymore. So it is a tricky one. If Harry tells me something and I know it's coming from a place of love, I will listen. And honestly, if someone is coming from a place of love and they're giving you advice, take it. If they're coming from a selfish, um, almost jealous place, ignore it. So that they're rare. People are rare to give you that place from love. But I think Harry, anything you would
And
give
I would
me, I
say,
think would be a
and
place of.
I'm not just blaming on Trump. I would say most life coaches or performance coaches who've gone through the journey of hard knocks and who've come out of it the other side. You know, I've gone through depressions. I've gone through feeling suicidal. And, you know, it just made me more empathic. It just made me more loving towards human beings. And that's another conversation. So coming back to this retreat, you come into the retreat and you'll first write an intention. What do you want to get out of the day? Because in life, you get what you focus on. So you write that down, and that's going to be at the back of your mind. And then my wife's going to run an amazing 1 hour yoga class. And I know I'm being biased, but she's probably just as amazing as Gary's wife, because when someone does something that's their love and their passion, it oozes through, right? And people love her
It's not
classes,
difficult.
and
Just
I'm sure they
it's
love.
easy.
I'm sure your Leah's classes are just as amazing.
Picasso drawing wasn't difficult.
Yes, I'm sure people love Leah's classes because that's her self-expression. Then there's going to be then there's going to be 15-minute breath work, meditation. Then we're going to have an amazing, nourishing lunch, which is completely wholesome. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do an hour's workshop, which will shift your life. I'm going to help you identify an area in your life that you're struggling with, or you want to make better, or even better than it already is. And I'm going to help you identify your blind spots and your limiting beliefs.
Yep.
And you're going to write them down. And then we're going to go through a fire ritual where you're going to burn that piece of paper in the fire pit and you're going to draw a line in the sand, a line of demarcation. I'm going to take you through a guided, very powerful process, projecting into the future and help you create a new future for yourself inside that area. Then I'm going to let you write it down. You're going to write it down, and I'm going to have you convert it into
Let's not give all the
present.
secrets away.
Listen, I'm an open book.
For me, I'm very excited. Just that alone makes me think this is great. So if I'm going to give a gift for everyone that makes a comment down below, you heard me talk about Napoleon Hill. I have a really, really old recording of him speaking, and it is even really, wow, better than the book, because he talks about the book and then he gives his own personal little. Have you heard this audio?
I have.
So
I know what audio you're talking about.
So I will put it on a drive with a link, and the link, everybody that comments on this podcast or shares it, I will send you the audio. Have a little listen. It will be with my pleasure. We're going to put on the podcast all the links to Harinder. Harinder, how do you like people to contact you? Through LinkedIn or an email?
They can contact me through our Instagram page, and I'll spell it out for you. It's at Samaya Wellness. Samaya it's a combination of my kids' names, Sai and Maya. SAMAIYA. SAMAIYA. Wellness is our Instagram page. So Samaya Wellness. They can contact us there. And I do want to give a few more tasters, because it's not just yoga and personal development. So after that session, we got an hour's worth of art creativity. You're going to be painting using your own hands on canvas. And why do we do that? Because we want you to bring out your inner self-expression and have you be present and still. Because we're either in the future or we're in the past. Very rarely are we in the present. And we've done this a few times, and I've walked into the room and there's pockets of just stillness. People are just in their zone. and they create masterpieces of. I'm not even kidding. People say I've not done this since I was 6 years old at school. Yeah. Then we have another break and a bit of yoga. Then we've got my sister who's amazingly passionate about this, who's going to do a sound bath. Sound bath is a vibration to different sounds with a gong, which takes your vibration to a whole new frequency. Then we're going to have a closing circle. So that event is on Sunday, the 28th of June. And we're also doing one on Monday, the 29th.
It's going to be exactly the same.
Going to be the same. It's slightly shorter on the Monday because we're allowing it to people who want to drop off their kids and pick up the kids again. But all the information will be on our Instagram page, Samaya Wellness. And one thing I want to say before I go, guys, and I know I speak for Garry as well on behalf, we eat, breathe this stuff. We live it, we walk it, we talk it, and it works. Okay, it works. You got to just take baby steps. You know, I'm not saying do 30 years of work straight away. We know we all started somewhere. The longest journeys start with the first step. Yeah, when you drive from London to Birmingham at night and you got the headlights on, you don't need to see Birmingham. You just need to know, you can just see the first 15 yards where the light takes you. So the first step I invite you guys to do is go onto YouTube. There's so much stuff out there. Download what Garry's going to give you, this Napoleon Hill. I want us to open a door for you that might have been closed, just to step in and see what is this world about. Because this stuff allows your dreams to come true, not ours. And me and Garry are people that love helping people.
We're selling this dream to a really tough crowd. I've been in optics since I was a teenager. I know optics. I know UK optics. And it's risk averse. It's quite closed. It doesn't like taking giant leaps. It's full of introverts. And what we're asking you to do here is really tough, but dip your toe. Just try it. What's the worst can happen? You waste a day. It wasn't for you. But to move your life into a place that is sunshine rather than darkness every day. If you're watching this, you know the book. If you score less than 40, I ask you to resign. And Hardeep won't mind me saying this. Hardeep, I met her. She said, Garry, I read your book at lunchtime. I'd resign by it the afternoon. I don't recommend you do that. All right? I don't, because you've got to prepare your next journey. Get your new job before you resign. But it says a must-read book for everyone that works in optics. I was so taken with the book, it changed the direction of my life. We want that for everyone. You don't have to read this book. You just need to think, am I happy? Can I do anything about it? If I can't do anything about it, maybe change that up. Harinder, you have been one of my favorite guests, and I'm sorry to all the other guests that I've ever spoken to. This is a topic that I love and has helped me from leaving school with no GCSEs to where I am today. So I'm very, very, very grateful to you for giving up this time. And I look forward to what you and I can create. What's his space?
I already know that me and you are going to create some magical stuff. And I want to thank the audience. I want to thank you for allowing us to step into your lives, and you've given up your time to watch this. And there's a phrase, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And if you're ready, and I'm not judging people that aren't ready, because everyone's at a different stage in their life. If we've said something that's even a minuscule's touched your heart, take that leap, whether it's reading his book, whether it's coming to our retreats, whether it's using him as a life coach, whether it's not even using any of our stuff. The reason me and Garry love this so much is because we've learned over 30 years that the most thing that gives us the most happiness is helping others. We're not getting commission out of this. I'm not saying come to my coaching. I'm not saying read his book, but change your life, because the biggest gift I think any human being has, our biggest calling, is to help another. And that's what has you, without even thinking about it, help a blind person cross a road, or help a lady walking down the stairs. Why do we do that? Because that's inbuilt in all of us. It's just we've forgotten. We built up so much negativity from childhood to now that we become like those horses with blinkers. So all we're asking you to do is just open your eyes a bit wider. When you open your eyes a bit wider, your heart opens a bit wider, and suddenly you start seeing things, feeling things, experiencing things, the same things you start seeing that you hadn't seen before, because you're open. your mind's open. Because
And I promise you, your life will be happier for it. I appreciate if you've listened to this whole episode from beginning to end, it's an hour and 15. I really appreciate your concentration. If you're listening to this for the sixth, seventh, eighth time, which I like doing on podcasts, that hopefully you're getting something out of every single one, please make a comment. Please subscribe to the channel. Please tell a friend if you've enjoyed this. And I always wrap up by saying that's a pod. This has been a gigantic pod, a good one, because it helps others that I haven't even met before. So, Harinder, you're the man.
Thank you.
You are the man.
Last word for me is when you change the way you look at things, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. God bless. Thank you.
God bless you all. That's a pod. That's a wrap to the next one. Wow.